Of the Bliss Catchers. Thank you so much for being here and helping us start the time. Thank you. Please keep your mobile phones on silent mode. You can use them though to take pictures. You can tweet to @Odyssey Post, which is the Twitter handle for the bookstore, and you can tweet to @AVIS Viswanathan, that's the spelling, for looping me in your tweet. It's fascinating that we are here in the 27th edition, and I have my guest number 50 and 51. So in 27 editions, in 3 years, we've done guest numbers 50 and 51. I see a lot of new faces joining us today, so I will take a couple of minutes to introduce the program to you. The Bliss Catchers is a monthly program. It is the last Saturday of the month. For 11 months of the year, from January to November, we come together here at 7 p.m. sharp to celebrate the philosophy of a great man, Joseph Campbell, the American mythologist and author, who said that it's mandatory that we follow our bliss, that we live a life that's full and fulfilling, because life is a limited period offer. So we come here to celebrate that philosophy. So we bring you guests every month who are courageous enough to dive deep into what gives them joy, and they do this with absolutely, a different flavor each guest brings to their life story. And so we're here to explore that journey. We're here to understand from them what makes their life so meaningful. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but one of the reasons why Vani, my wife, who's here, and I curate this series, among many others, and I'll come to that in a bit, is, I have to quote Rumi. I'm going to quote Rumi a lot today. Rumi is my favorite poet, 13th century Persian, who said, "The wound is where the light enters." So Vani and I are going through a very, very cathartic phase in our life. You must read my book, Fall Like a Rose Petal, which is here. This book tells you the story of our life, bankruptcy that we are dealing with. And this bankruptcy would have normally pushed us into deep depression. It's been a decade since we have been living without money and without work, struggling most of the time, going through intense pain, but we're not suffering. And that's the beauty of our discovery. We discovered that it is possible to be happy despite your circumstances. It is possible to be non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering, even when you're dealing with intense pain. And so we want to share this with the world, and so we're driven by our purpose, which is to inspire happiness. And that's the reason why we curate not just the Bliss Catcher series, but we curate 4 programs across the city of Chennai. We do the Bliss Catchers every last Saturday here at the Odyssey bookstore. We do the Happiness Conversations once every quarter at the INCO Center. We do the Uncommon Leader in partnership with the Madras Management Association every 2 months. And every month on the second Saturday at the Wandering Artist in Aripuram, we curate the Artist Soul series, where we talk to artists about their life journeys. And all these 4 events are non-commercial, entry is free, and we do this with the sense of purpose of inspiring happiness. Now, why we do this, that without money, is somebody asked me just now, you're doing this work, and it's so interesting that you're doing this so passionately. And one of the reasons why we do it is a very selfish reason. When you have a lot of problems that you cannot solve, the mind will go to attend to those problems and will get steeped in those problems. But what if you tricked the mind and engaged yourself in doing a lot of stuff that you love doing, that the mind has no time to graze elsewhere? So one of the reasons why we do this program series, and the other 3 are to keep ourselves engaged and happy. Now this edition of Bliss Catchers is also special because this is the 50th curated conversation by me over 3 years across these 4 events. Thank you so much. been possible without all of you, without Chennai, without people of Chennai, without the audiences that come to us, our programs. This would not have been possible without Ashwin. I don't see him here, but Ashwin, who runs the Odyssey store, and his support, his unconditional support for the Bliss Catcher series. Without the sponsors that we have for the other programs, this would not have been possible. So thank you, a big thank you to everybody. Now, I want to draw somebody here, I want to bring somebody here to continue with something that we started last month. We started this segment, a 3-minute segment called the Bliss Catcher Impact. And last month we had somebody come and talk about how the program has impacted their life. So I want to invite someone, but I want to tell you a little story before I invite this person. I first came to the Odyssey store to sit in the space, which now I come every Saturday. But the first time I ever sat here was as a guest. I was not the curator, I was not the anchor. And it was around the time that my book had launched in 2014. And Devasena Mirchi Deva, the famous RJ, was in conversation with me. I came a man who was broke, totally. I mean, I'm still broke. But I came then not just broke from a physical, financial point of view, but I came broke from a confidence point of view. And there was a book, there was a story that we were telling the world, we were sharing. There was so much pain. And I had not made a public appearance in a long time. 7-8 years, in fact. And here was a book, and because the book was there, Ashwin of Odyssey had organized this Meet the Author program, and Devasena was curating it, anchoring it, and Chennai was washed out. It was the 18th of October, 2014. We had a major cyclone that year, and there were exactly 12 people in the audience. Okay? As I walked in, a lady walked up to me, and called out to me, in fact, and said, "Avis, I remember you from the time you were writing for Indian Express, and you wrote me an email in 2009, and she waved out a printed copy of that email, which I had written to her. For me, that moment was a moment of personal, revalidation, if I can call it. It was, for a man who was broke, the identity was in question, the pain was there, but now I was even dealing with who am I and what am I doing here, and what's all this book about, and there's nobody in the audience. Chennai is washed out, the one thing that we're trying to do is not working out. And that lady, my dear friends, has stood by Vani and me in a very special way. Not just she, but her entire family. And I will introduce the family to you and then invite her to speak here. And the family is right here with me, the Manichandra family, which is Manichandra himself, Geeta, Atirupa, and Apurva there. And they have been very supportive. They come to the Bliss Catcher program every month, most months unless they're traveling. And they've been to most of the editions, with Ramesh being the only one who has never missed all 27 editions. Ramesh is sitting right at the back. Okay? So nobody can beat that record. But Geeta, I will invite her to talk about. So I'm curious to understand what does Bliss Catchers do to somebody like the Manichandra family. And Geeta will represent the family as she speaks and shares her thoughts. Over to you, Geeta. And here's your mic.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. AVIS Viswanathan, heartiest congratulations on achieving half-century mark. And AVIS, I know that you have a personal milestone, the 50th birthday coming up in November this year. So all the very best to you and yours. Why Bliss Catchers? Why do we come here unfailingly almost every month? So yeah, it is on the last Saturday of every month, I'm like a child. I wake up with a childlike expectancy, knowing fully well that I have a treat in the evening at Odyssey. So I don't even feel that I'm coming to an event at Odyssey anymore. It's like a social get-together. We are welcomed very warmly by Team Odyssey, Mr. Ganesh and his team serving us light refreshments. And then the cozy chat that AVIS has with his guests, which we listen to very avidly. And then we get to participate also. And what is even more interesting, AVIS is the way you share your TPOV's teachable points of view. He pauses and reflects every now and then and enhances the learning that we get with his TPOVs a la Novestishi. Thank you for that. And then the quiz segment, the trivia and quiz buff in me just loves the quiz segment, and what a thrill it is to lay our hands if we answer a question correctly on this coveted Odyssey Cup. And there's always one for the road too.
This is the one.
The profound Rumi quote that AVIS leaves us with. I have to mention that, AVIS. So, you know, I consider Bliss Catchers as the hitchhiker's guide to finding one's own bliss in life. I found it way back in 2002 when I got a job, and I held on to it for nearly 10 years. It wasn't even a job because I was so passionate about doing it. So Bliss Catchers tells you that you can find your bliss not just once, but again and again in life. So I'm very hopeful that I'll find it again. And as Randy Bosch said in his famous The Last Lecture, you know, and I quote, "We cannot change the cards we are dealt, just how we play the hand." And all the 49 Bliss Catchers we've met so far in the last 26 editions of the Bliss Catchers have shown us that life deals you many cards, but it depends on how you play with it. They have showed us that there are many, many ways to play with it. Life may give you lemon, but you don't necessarily have to make a lemonade out of it. I don't know whether Mr. Chinmaya Arjun Raja of Panagam is here, but he can make lemon pickles out of it. So why can't he make a lemon meringue pie or a lemon souffle or whatever we want to do? So that's how I look at Bliss Catchers. You know, it enhances everything about life. It gives you faith. It gives you hope that don't lose hope. Don't give up on it. So thank you very much, AVIS and Vani. Thank you, Mr. Ashwin of Team Odyssey. And I will definitely, as a family, the Manichandras will definitely be back time and again, because this gives us immense bliss. There's an old Tamil cinema song, Kaatru Pone, with Kavire Gandhi Vande. Mada Madam Bliss Catchers to Vande Pala Pala Peranandangalayum Bliss Pala Pala Unmayana Tatthuvangalayum Allikondu Solgirom. Mikka Nandi. Thank you. And may I invite the audience to join me in giving a standing ovation to AVIS and Vani, Team Odyssey, and a big thanks to Ashita Biscuit for even started that. Thank you.
Thank you, Geeta. That was very overwhelming. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And I love you for keeping it tight within time as we normally do. So it was brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm very touched. It's an emotional moment. I'm very grateful for all your blessings and best wishes. Let's move on to the show for this evening. So we have two fascinating guests today. How do you decide when there are two guests on your show? How do you decide who's guest number 50 and who's guest number 51? So I went by an age-old rationale, which is the alphabetical order. So my guest number 50 on the Bliss Catchers show is Arun Krishnamurthy of the Environmentalist Foundation of India. Arun, thank you. Thank you for joining us. You can take one of the chairs. And Arun and Vani met quite incidentally at the Ashwita Goli Soda store. Vani is passionate about eco-friendly issues, and so she bumped into Arun there, and she came back and told me, hey, there is a Bliss Catcher in Arun. And I tucked the name away. I kept, this series is curated well in advance. So for example, we are in May 2017, and we are curated for the whole year of 2017 now. So the next Bliss Catcher edition that we are set to curate is only for 2018 January. So this is a very advanced curated series because it's popular. And so I kept the name away, and then when I Googled him and I read his wiki page, I was amazed. So here's a young man who quit Google to dive deep into conservation, to lead conservation efforts. Can I request Parandaman for extra chairs, please? Yeah, can somebody hand me that? Meanwhile, sir, there's a chair. So 83 lakes is what this gentleman and his foundation have saved in India. They've cleaned up 83 lakes across 6 states, across 6 states, and he's won many awards. He's a microbiologist by education, and then he's also got a master's in mass communication and media studies. And he's an entrepreneur, and we'll talk about his entrepreneurial journey, not just a social entrepreneur, but he is an entrepreneur who uses his entrepreneurial ventures to support his Environmentalist Foundation of India. And he's won many awards, but most primary among them is the Rolex Award for Enterprise in 2012. So ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you, Arun Krishnamurthy. Thank you, Arun, for joining us. And my other guest, my guest number 51, is a man who loves to be called Poochi. Okay? Now many of you know him. I knew him, I knew of him, and I was always thinking, what a weird name, Poochi Venkat, right? And I'm sure you've heard this before, Poochi Venkat, right? Many people have told you this. It's a pretty odd name to have, Poochi Venkat, and to be happy having that name, right? So that's Venkat for you. I was thinking of Venkat as a person who was not going to be so easy to reach out to, as a person who's a specialist in the area of insects, and I was wondering how to introduce him. And then I stumbled on this beautiful word, which he claims in today's Indian Express that he stumbled on too, which is called entomophile. An entomophile is a person who loves insects. And here's a man who's a trained sound engineer, who's trained himself in photography. You see some of his work over here on display today, and who just loves insects. He believes that insects are more trustworthy than human beings. And I think that's an amazing, deep spiritual perspective that he brings to the table. So on that note, let me invite Venkat to join us. Venkat, please join us here. Thank you. Yes. I'll sit here. You sit in the middle here. As the host and as the curator, I get to choose my seat. Okay, so thank you. Let's just check your mics. Your mics on?
That's
Yeah, fantastic. So all good? Shall we start? Okay. So the format, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are new here, for the next about 43 minutes to 45 minutes, I'll be in conversation with the two gentlemen. Please hold your questions till the very end. And around closer to 8 o'clock, we'll come to you with a Q&A segment where you can interact with the guests. But midway through the conversation, there is a quiz segment, and you can win that fabulous-looking mug over there when I throw the quiz questions to you. And then at the end of the audience Q&A, we have another quiz segment where the guests will ask you questions, and you can still win more mugs. So, are we all set? Shall we get started? Okay. Let me start with Venkat. Okay. And the way I'll be doing is I'll be hopping between the two stories and then picking up the threads and leave you with a garland that you can take back. Okay.
Sound.
Whose sound? My sound?
Yeah, your sound is dropping.
Is it wavering?
Yeah.
Is it better now? I hope it's better. That's as much as I can raise it for the moment. Okay. Okay. So I'll be louder. So let's get started. Let me ask my first question to Venkat. Venkat, what's this idea of being called Poochi? It's an unnerving thought to be called Vaya Poochi. Vaya Poochi. It's an unnerving thought, but you seem to be celebrating it. So how did you get the name Poochi? And then we'll go to your story. But first, how did you get the name Poochi, and how are you so comfortable with it?
The interesting part is I never felt uncomfortable because the people who called me by that name were the ones who were uncomfortable. So they were saying, can we call you Poochi? Will you get insulted? I said, if you feel insulted, then it's your problem. I don't feel insulted. And this is where the surprise began. And so the story goes back quite a number of years, almost 20 years ago. Then we were the only creatures in the form of human beings who are actually going after insects. Because everybody in this forest area was running after birds and the larger animals. And the forest guards were highly amused, saying, have you ever looked up because every time we go by you, you're always looking down. And I said, what is there that you're looking down? Then I said, come here, let me show you. And that's when their own revelation towards insects started. So to differentiate me from so many other researchers that were also moving around that same area, they started calling me Poochi sir. But they were talking to themselves. They never called me that. Suddenly what happened, I overheard them talking to each other. Hey, Poochi sir, a cup of tea. I said, hey, who's he referring to? Then I said, Yaar, sir, sorry sir, I mean, I hope I can also go off into
yes, please.
And then they were so shocked. They were shocked, not me. And then they said, I'm sorry if you don't mind. I said, look, thanks for creating an identity for me. And so that's how it all began.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, and you welcomed it. You never resisted the idea.
Yeah, because it was so funny that the name was so crazy at that time of the world, way back in the 90s, to be actually called by such a weird name that the people who called me were the ones who were getting embarrassed. So I wonder how Poochi Venkat, the musician, would have felt. And so, I mean, it's amazing that it had to happen that way.
So that was 20 years ago, but can we step back a little further back in time? I don't mean to make you feel very old, but can we move a little back in time to the time that you qualified to be a sound engineer? How did the journey from sound engineer to photographer happen? How did that transition happen?
Actually, sound secretly is still my first love, if such a thing can be called. Yeah.
Okay.
And thanks for giving me an opportunity to reveal that fact, because it was not supposed to be revealed actually. So I guess there is some design out there, and so I was very well known for my sound work. In fact, if you don't mind, I'll digress for about 3 seconds, where my old Mrs. Mahalakshmi is here, and she knows me from the time I was a sound engineer. And so I was actually doing a lot of sound. I had my own company, factory in Tiruvallur, 10 guys working under me. I was doing the circuit design, making amplifiers, speaker systems, custom made, and we were very well known. I was also a sound engineer who was doing a lot of concerts. And what an amazing situation, because the musicians, the sound engineer is the only chap the musicians are scared of. So long live the DJs, long live the sound engineers. So as a consequence of that, I was called to a lot of places to help repair sound equipment, because I didn't mind getting into the nitty-gritties of the capacitors and the resistors and the transistors, because it was all the analog days. So I happened to go to let us say something like a Carnatic music archive called Sampradaya, which doesn't exist nowadays. They called me in for repairing the sound equipment and maintaining them. But when I started taking interest a little more, they said, hey, you seem to be good at this, so why don't you come and join us as the sound recordist? And it was the most pleasurable time, because I was listening to the best of Carnatic musicians. I could tell them, sir, they said, correct, what to do. Wow, what a situation. The same place, a lot of photography had to be done as part of a documentation. And we'll, of course, AVIS will take me through that later if you want to. Then what happens? They told me, look, you're the only person who knows what a camera looks like, and you know what each button does. So would you mind also photographing the process of the kacheri and all that? So I used to set the equipment, start the recording, drop that, take out the headphones, put the camera, run, take the picture, then come back, again adjust, again go. So this was happening all the time. Somewhere in the transition I said, for sound. Because I was getting more and more peaceful and more fulfilling with the cameras. And the camera became a second nature, and I was not very happy with the sound recording. I don't know how
you actually phased out sound recording.
I wouldn't say phase, it is more like the fade in, fade out in a PowerPoint presentation. Go out and that comes. But that has not left you at all. It's there, it's a background, but its time is done. So then I got into sound, and the most funny part was all the concerts, all the places where I used to go as a sound engineer, those same people are seeing me with the camera. They said, hey, what's happening? Get back to your station. He said, it's like telling your pet, Then I said, no, I'm going to be here. What, you changed your profession? I think I have. But those are the people who warmly welcomed the new me. And there is one person, of course, the Drum Giants. I had a very close association with them, goes back to so many years. They also helped in the transition. So their concerts, their dance performances, and I was there with the camera when I used to help them with the sound recording. That's how the transition. That's how the transition.
I have another question for you before I go to Arun, but there is a very subtle point he brought out. Fade in, fade out. Its job is done, but it is there in the background. I think if you review life, many a time people come to your life, things happen. Their job is done. They don't linger on they go away. They're there in the background somewhere, but they don't come in the forefront. And that is how life works. It works in the most miraculous manners. That is, what needs to come into your hand or connect you to somebody or something, it will happen. That's what Joseph Campbell talked about when he said, follow your bliss and doors will open. And people will come into your zone of bliss when you least expect them to. So I pick up that point, Venkat, very beautifully. You touched upon it, but that's my learning from what you just said. I want to quickly ask you one more question before I move to our own story, which is, and then how did you get introduced to insects? Obviously the most, the billion-dollar question. So you were now a photographer of some repute. You are a photographer of great repute now, and you have dived deep into the world of insects. So how did that transition happen? How did the dot connect?
Okay, it's going to be a quick PowerPoint. Here goes. So actually it starts off with astronomy. Nothing to do with photography, nothing to do with audio, nothing to do with anything but astronomy completely. So I do a lot of astronomy even nowadays. I'm an amateur astronomer. I do a lot of astrophotography. I've been doing it for a number of years, for the past 20, 30 years. And my first idea was, how can I make people get interested in astronomy, not astrology by the way. So what I used to do was to write to NASA, and no internet, no nothing, not even a phone call. Take the address from the American consulate and the one that is there in Germany. I used to write to them. Surprisingly, they sent back tons and tons of pictures and information. Unbelievable. And but I can't take these things like flashcards and keep holding up and say, this is Jupiter, this is Venus, this is Saturn. It's not going to happen. And slide presentations and projections were the in thing those days. And I can imagine lugging this huge slide projector with me with the slides. I had to get it onto the slides. So I said, what is the best way to do it? Photography. So I actually went to Burma Bazaar with a little bit of money I earned from the audio work that I was doing. I said, give me the worst camera that you have, because that is the one that actually works. No, I understand. So he gave me one of those Russian cameras with unpronounceable letters. And then I said, this works. So I actually bought slide film, hoping that I would get my exposures right, which actually surprisingly came correctly. And then I photographed all those pictures, started looking at it, and the equipment that was used for that was the same that would ultimately be used for macro. Then when people started hearing this more often, I got more and more and more work for this reprography. Because color Xerox didn't exist in those days, so you know how difficult it was getting reproductions. So I used to photograph, print, give them. That's how it happened. So this professor suddenly calls me up and says, look, we heard that you're an expert at this. Can you please duplicate a set of 200 slides? I said, it's work. I'm going to be paid. Please send the whole lot. Then I said, okay, let's start the work. I put the first one. I said, my God, what on earth is this? And it was a picture of a spider. Grotesquely close. Not grotesquely close. Then I take the other one. I said, hope the next one is better. It was even worse. It was even closer. And the entire 200 was not better than the previous one. But I said, Venkat, stop this. Enjoy the work because it's going to get you the money to do something else. I said, fine, let's do it. So I actually closed my, okay, it's a metaphor. I couldn't close the eye, of course. So Kanna moved in there, camera click on in there, I started the work. But, you know, in a roll of 36 frames, you get to finish only 30 or 28 or something with a lot of leftovers which I don't waste. And then I said, okay, and then suddenly something occurred. I said, when I go into my garden, when I walk past my garden, that same funny looking creature was there lurking in the leaves. Let me try to photograph that because I still have 6 frames. So idle clicking. Then what happens? The idle click has to be confirmed. Let's see what happens. So there was this Gunda Dairyam, you know. Anyway, she's not going to do anything. So I took these pictures, showed it to the professor. She said, who took these? I said, Nanda, because he said, I didn't give you these pictures. He said, you actually took these? I said, man, why are you asking like this? He said, no, unless somebody is brave enough to go so close, nobody can take this picture. Then she looked and said, are you really brave? I think so. And then she said, okay, if I give you an assignment, will you take it up and actually do this work for us? That's how it started. That's the first assignment I had. And after that, it was very funny. That's part of it.
Look at the fascinating way in which it unfolded, right? Where is astronomy and where is the world of insects, right? One is up there and one is down here, but somehow the dots connected in your life, right? In the most bizarre manner, right? Yes. Can be called even the most serendipitous manner, right?
Yes.
If you look
absolutely.
back, yes,
absolutely.
So thank you, Venkat, for those opening perspectives. So let's move to Arun, and Arun, my question to you is, you did microbiology at Madras Christian College, and then you joined Google, right? What were the, go back in time to your, and you grew up in Murichur, right? So go back in time to talk a little bit about what incident that happened in your life when you were in school or when you were a child that attracted you to this entire concept of environmental activism that you are now championing. But there must have been an early seed, so I wanted to understand that event. Was it an event or was it an influence? What was it?
Murichur was the influence, because if anybody's traveled to Murichur, you'll understand what a beautiful place it once was and what it's become now. 1993 is when we moved into Murichur, and when we moved into Murichur, in the late evenings we used to get dogs. These are wild dogs running behind my house, and when you pushed open your gate, a snake would fall down and run away from you. So these were things that were around my house, the environment I grew in. My house was strategically located between a lake and a pond. The only CMDA layout where there were 19 homes. So on the right side was a large lake which belonged to the Indian Air Force, which no longer exists. And on the left, 300 meters, was a tiny pond. So when it used to rain and when it used to flood, the water used to run through my street. And as a child, I used to drink water from the road. In 1994, my dad decided that we had to go on this fancy trip to Kanyakumari to better understand Vivekananda and more. A 30 days road trip, and when you come back from the road trip, on the lake which I spoke about, there was a board. A lot of construction debris and one board. The board read Lake View Apartment coming soon on the lake. So it's more like, you know, your childhood, you're growing up with something, and then slowly, eventually you see that vanish. You know the value of something, and then you've been given something, then you're being denied something later. That's where the urge started to, the pick happened, and the urge was to take up something and do something. And slowly but steadily, the city had to grow. We needed the roads, we needed the railways, we needed the industries, and we were victims of development. And I'm not denying the fact that we need to grow, we need these industries, but do we have a plan in place? And these were questions that even without, because wherever you go today, when you're sitting across a panel of environmentalists, there are three words: holistic, sustainable, and the one thing which is community conservation. And I hear people talking about this, but these were things which we experienced. And that's where it started. All those animals which I grew up with vanished one after the other. And come 2015, I saw people whom I grew up with vanish in that same Murichur during the floods. And we are victims of climate change, and we've seen it firsthand, experienced it firsthand. And I'm sure if you've experienced it that way, you wouldn't be sitting there, you would also have done something. So that's how
you were barely in high school at that time, right? And this had a very, very deep influence on you. Yet you pursued microbiology and then a master's later on. We'll come to that. But how did you keep this spark alive? Because it's quite easy to get trapped in the earning a living syndrome, right? You go and join a company like Google, and most people will give an arm and a leg to join. And you can get swept away with the glitz and glamour of high-paying job in a very exciting organization. How did you stay grounded to this influence? Were there other events that happened which
2007 May the 21st is when I joined Google, and I wasn't paid very much in the beginning.
Okay. So I stand corrected. I've never worked.
No, I'm just kidding. But it was a wonderful organization to work for. Wherever I was, whichever organization I was part of, my school, my college, and I love the word you used, trapped. Why microbiology? I was part of that larger race, and I'm still part of that larger race. It's just that I'm running on the other direction, where I'm not part of that race anymore. I wanted to madly do medicine, and I wanted to become this cardiovascular surgeon. That was my dream. Okay. But I didn't know what that meant, but just that the word was very fancy and I wanted to do it, and I miserably failed every exam. And then my dad did this, he was always there by my side. He said, like, I'm going to ask people what is the next best option. And 3 people who didn't know what microbiology was told him, microbiology is the next best thing. And then my father was like, I think you should do microbiology. I didn't know what microbiology was. So then we decided, where do we go to do microbiology? 6 kilometers from home was this large heaven on earth in Chennai, Madras Christian College. I owed to my college. And my mother took me there, and still I was in Derama. And there was this arts queue and then the science queue. Then I looked at the arts queue and I said, why can't I do Viscom? I didn't know what Viscom was. My mother said, it's already late, we have to go pick up your brother, let's stand in the science queue. So literally we bought the application for microbiology, we filled in, and then the coordinator there, he circled my chemistry mark and he said, you really want to do microbiology? And my mother said, no, he's really good at it, please. We didn't know what it was. I joined the course. Everything from confidence to leadership to a job to a beautiful wife, that course in college gave me everything that I can ask for.
Beautiful, fantastic. So, did the time in MCC, did that mean a lot to you from your current focus on environmentalism? Did you do campaigns even there?
Yes. I'll tell you why. It's this large, we're all proud of the organizations, institutions we represent, yes? And when I say this, I say to the last cell in my body, I'm true to this, because I'm a very proud Madras Christian College alumnus, because it's not the people, it's the place that made it magical for me. We used to sit in these British-built galleries to write our exams, and my friend, he's from Manipur, a wonderful gentleman. So he actually brought in a tiffin box and we hid it under the desk. And in that tiffin box, he had something to eat, I don't know what that was. And then he said, like, let me draw my scale. He drew the scale. What would you expect in a college? Some dust to fall in, some papers to fall in. Something black and slothy just dropped to the ground and it started flying. In the middle of the exam hall, you're writing an exam with bats, and on the one side there are deers grazing. And then when there is a power cut, you still have this beautiful chirp around with which you write an exam, and the whole sense of that institution where they groomed you as a leader. When I say they, I don't know who built that institution and how they developed it, but to date, anybody who comes to me, I tell them please go to MCC, because MCC makes an individual a leader, a citizen, a social dweller, and that's what it made to me. So that's what it did to me. From there, and doing microbiology, 1,300 odd people sat for that interview. And 7 months long interview, and then suddenly Google said, okay, come, we're going to take you. I didn't know what I was going to do next in life. So then from there to Indian Institute of Mass Communication, the campus of JNU. There are again trees, rocks, people, a lot of poetry. So I'm fortunate to have experienced a lot, and I know that I can't leave it that way to go back to something else. That's why I'm still running in the opposite direction of the lab.
We'll come to that, but one more question. When you shifted to Google, to Hyderabad to work at Google, was there an influence while working at Google itself? Because I realized that Google supports a lot of your work here, but what happened there that kind of gave you direction and perspective?
July of 2006 is when third year, final year, and everybody's asking this next big question. So what next? And then again, my dad went and asked a bunch of people, and then one of them said, Australia, like, he has to go to Australia to do food microbiology. That's the next big thing. So until then, we were actually literally from the Crompet Government Hospital. They used to bring urine samples and stool samples. So we used to keep digging into that in the UG. So I was like happy. From stool, we were going at least to food. So and Australia was the big thing. Honestly, we didn't have the money. And my dad, I mean the world to him, he was like, I'm going to send you somehow, don't worry. But I knew that was not going to happen. But I was very confident about my father. So come July, and I was dead scared to go sit in one of those aptitude tests and entrance because I suck at math. Yes, I love math, but math hates me, it fails to enter my head. So then this friend of mine again, he said, come, let's just go sit in that hall, because we had a biochemistry class which we didn't want to go to. So I went and sat in that hall, they gave a test, and out of the 1,300 people, they chose 600 for the next round. I didn't even know I would get selected, I got selected. From one thing to another thing, from 1,300, they finally, February of 2007, they informed us after rigorous rounds of interviews, they told us 3 of you are selected for the job. By then, the torturous journey was, all my classmates had at least 2-3 offers in hand, and I was still telling everybody I'm going to Australia. The only 3 places I knew were Perth and Melbourne and Victoria, and I was just telling people I'm going somewhere. So people thought I was going to Australia, and I didn't even have a passport back then. So then, this whole thing, February, the list is out. So we were a small group of friends, everybody's running to that corridor. I'm the last person, they all were more eager to see if my name's on the list. I got through. It was not like I had a choice. I didn't have an email ID. So then, and when I joined Google, my manager said you have to submit your resumes. And nobody would have done this. I sent them all my resumes to a Yahoo account. So you like first create a Gmail account and then send me everything. Okay. And you had to have an invite. So my manager sent me an invite from his personal account. I created a Gmail account. And then I sent all my details. And Google definitely, when you enter the job, everybody from MOP, Loyola, MCC, the entire country that recruited, I'll just take 30 seconds, the 1,100 odd people for this big job, we all had to sit there to approve ads. The minute I entered Google, on the 4th day, I got bored of my job. And there was an application. There was an application for this position where they were recruiting 4 people across the world within Google. All that you had to do was you had to acquire businesses, you had to acquire smaller businesses. YouTube, they had just acquired YouTube back then. Motorola was in the cards. So all of this was happening. So there were 4 of us. One in Egypt, the gentleman who started the Tahrir Square revolution. So him, me, there was one colleague in Singapore and one colleague in Dublin. And our manager used to sit in San Francisco. So we had to work around the clock. And I was the India representative. Again, I applied, blindly applied. The only thing was the confidence that MCC gave me that just go to whatever. I applied. And then after again another 3 weeks of interviews later, they told me I got the job. So from the 1,100 people who joined, I was the only one who was doing something else. And from there it picked up. Then they started paying well. So from there it picked up. From there it picked up. One thing led to the other thing. And my manager used to always keep telling me, think out of the box, think out of the box. I thought a little outside of the box, because outside of the box building we lived was a beautiful lake. And they helped me immensely to clean that lake. And when I tell you the story of that lake, end of this session, you're going to start cleaning the lake.
I'm going to come to you for that story. That's a very, very important story. That's where the journey of 83 and counting started, right? So we will dwell on that story. But it's time, according to my clock, for the midway quiz segment. Are you all ready?
Yes.
Okay, we have 2 questions coming up. One on Venkat and one on Arun. So I used the word, keep your hands on your imaginary buzzers or shout and raise your hand. If there is a tie, I will decide who gets the mug. Okay? Please go with my sense of view from where I'm seeing all of you. Don't despair if you lose one. You can get another in a future question or in a future edition of Bliss Catchers. We are an equal opportunity event. Okay? So the question on Venkat is, I used the word entomophile. Okay? Now, what does the word, let me look at my cue card there because it's a slightly complex word. What does the word entomophage mean? Entomophage mean? E-N-T-O-M-O-P-H-A-G-E. Yes, Jay. You can sit and you can sit.
Yeah. Entomo basically comes from the discipline entomology,
Right.
the study of insects.
Right.
And entomophilia means a lover of insects, like entomophobic,
Right.
entomophilic.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right. No, that's not the answer for entomophage.
Entomophilic.
You're going to the root. The root is right, but it says yes. The gentleman in the glasses there at the back. Yes, you're raising your hand, sir. Yes. I'll come to you. I'll come to you.
Someone who eats insects.
Absolutely right. Someone who eats insects. A man or a person who eats insects. What's your name?
I'm Arun.
Arvind, please come forward. Please come forward, and it's your turn to give away the mug to Arvind. Thank you for. It's a very complex word. I'm not a very educated man, so I had to look up Wikipedia for this. Thank you. Okay, this one is going to be slightly easier. I thought that was also quite a interesting answer coming. I thought we may not have an answer, but I'm glad we did. The second question is on Arun, and it's an interesting question. Connect Arun to a company that was set up in 1915. If you have listened carefully, you may have the answer.
Madras Christian College?
No.
Madras Christian College?
No. Company, I said. I said a company.
Motorola.
Not Motorola. IBM? Yes?
Mr. Nuts.
No. Yes, Dhananjay. No, not East India. 1915. Not Yahoo. Okay, anyone wants a clue? This clue will give it away. I use the word. Come on, I use the word. Okay, I'll go to nationality now. Okay, or region. To a European company. A European company, a European brand that I just named at the. Yes. Rolex? Yes, I'll give it to the lady. She gave the answer out. Rolex, yes. Please come forward, Arun. Rolex has an interesting history, by the way. Those of you who love trivia, Rolex has an interesting history. So Rolex is the brand that I talked about in the context of Arun getting an award from them. And Rolex has an interesting history. For those of you who are interested in trivia, Rolex was not set up as Rolex and was not set up in Switzerland. It was set up in 1905 in London, in England, and was an English company until they moved headquarters to Switzerland. And it was only in 1915 that the name Rolex was registered. Okay, so thank you for participating in the quiz. Badri, I'm sorry. The lady shouted out the answer ahead of you. You were waiting for me to call you out.
You always favor ladies.
No,
Ladies favorite.
I'm favorably inclined to receive your compliment. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to Venkat now and continue our conversation. Venkat, what is so beautiful in your life about these insects? There's such a great sense. Don't you see a great sense of joy in this man? He was putting up these pictures along with me a little earlier in the evening. The time he talks about insects, there's so much of joy in you. And we are all squirming when we see insects. Spider நமக்கெல்லாம் உடனே அதை அடிக்கணும். பட் நீங்க எப்படி சார் அதை நேசிக்கிறீங்க? தமிழ்ல கேட்டா தான் எனக்கு புரியும்.
There is one philosophy because we don't know what we're going to get. So insects behave like that. So here I was running after a job, getting money. Where is the next assignment coming from? While I was photographing insects, my thought was, after I finish this, will they continue to give me another assignment and think? Then I suddenly realized, insects are doing work all the time. They're active all the time. They don't seem to be sleeping, because when I was out in the field, the farmer used to come and say, "Sir, and the 70, the spider, time was 10 o'clock in the night." I said, I was thinking, time Then I realized, 10 o'clock somebody is working. 10 o'clock somebody is actually there doing work. Why? Then 4 o'clock in the morning he will say, "Sir, that moth has come, it is sitting on the tree, come photograph it." So 4 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock. In the blazing sun, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something is there. I said, this is unbelievable. So if they can be working all the time, getting things done, why can't I? I will do it. So that connection established. And that philosophy, when you say, do your duty without expectation, is 100% there. I said, if that can reflect in your life, let us be active. Let us not think of what's going to come at the end. Enjoy what you're doing right now. Live for the moment in terms of, so when a bee is taking the honey from the flower, it has no idea whether it will live long enough to go to the hive, because there is a bird waiting to eat it up, the bee eater. Then, when a butterfly is born, I had an opportunity, though I felt very sad about it, but I saw it. The butterfly is just emerging from the cocoon, which is that, and there is a praying mantis eating it simultaneously. So the first part of the butterfly is being consumed while the rest of it is coming out. So was it born or was it already dead? But it was happening. So the butterfly did not stop coming out. It said, I will come out anyway, but if it has to eat me, it has to eat me. That's the cycle, it goes. Then there was a butterfly that was running around. Suddenly the butterfly stops, a spider is eating it. The next minute, a lizard has eaten the spider. In front of me this happened, in Anmangalam. So that taught me, be part of the process. Don't think of the process. Just keep going. And every moment you hit the shutter button, as a picture, I said, I think I got it. And then I think, okay, I then thank the insect for cooperating long enough to split me, say, hey, great, hope to see you again tomorrow if you're still around. So I would say that, I hope that was
good. It's a fantastic answer. I think if you reflect on his answer and go back home and think about it even deeper. Do your duty without expecting any rewards. And this is what the Gita talks about. This is what life is all about. And yet, we always ask any opportunity comes with a question riding on it. What's in it for me? That's the human mind. And that's the race, the rat race that Arun was referring to. That's what the rat race does to you. Programs you to keep asking this question. That was one deeply spiritual perspective that you talked about. The other is the point about going with the flow, where you are part of the process. We are all part of this process called life. There is no method here. It's there is no Venkat way and there is no Arun way. It just happens to us and we have to go with the flow. And I think that's something very, very meaningful that you shared. But there is a madness in you, Venkat, as there is a madness in Arun as well. And I will ask this question to you when I come there. But there's a madness in you. He was talking to me about these pictures. And he said he spent something like 47-50K on some of these pictures. A lot more pictures he's got in doing them. But there is a lunacy. There is a lunacy element here, that you invest so much in something that gives you joy. How do you pay your bills?
Okay. What a question, boss. Okay. I'll start in reverse. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. So when you say thing of beauty, what is this beauty and what is this thing? I say the thing is the process. And the beauty is the outcome. And that is what keeps you going for the joy. So I said, I'm going to focus on what I want to do. And I'll do anything to get that going. So irrespective of whether I'm earning money by operating a broomstick, or whether I quietly photograph a wedding. Sorry, there might be wedding photographers, don't take me wrong. But I could feel that the wedding photography is like hunger. Okay, so but actually people make a living doing that. So other panna. I've actually also just sat and cleaned houses also and earned money out of that. I've done that also. But at the end of it, I say, how much am I getting? Chalo, where should we go and take a print? Chalo, the entrance fee for maybe Guindy children's park is 20 rupees. Have I got the money? Chalo, therefore, let's go and take a picture. Let's get another lens. Let's get the focus. Let's get doing what we really want to do. And everything else is secondary. So I'll also quickly summarize the number of things that I do. I do graphic design, then I do scale modeling. I make models of houses and cars and planes. I make money out of that. Then I do design. I still do audio. Secretly, I'm still an audio person. And then I do a lot of video editing. These are all part of my. I also conduct astronomy classes, which I don't tell people. I forget about that. It goes on. I don't have any hobbies. They're all my profession. At the end of that, what you get out there, it's exactly like the bee collecting the honey. It collects, it collects, it collects. At the end of it, it's got a magnificent hive. And that is exactly what this is. So I would say that, in fact, there is the point I just wind up with this saying that I really don't think where the money is coming from. Is it coming? And I think I have no dignity of labor. Tomorrow you tell me, look, I'll give you 100 rupees, would you mind moving the chair? I said, please, let's do it. I need the hand. What is the dignity of labor we are talking about? Because insects don't look at dignity of labor. They do everything. So the point is, okay, I'll go a little like what, Arun said, it's a wonderful thing, where a fly sitting on, let us say, detritus or fecal matter, is the same fly that sits on the banana. For it, it is just food. We are the people who are differentiating it. But the fly is fine. So I say, wow, the fly finds something useful in everything. That's exactly what's the attitude. You find income, let's use the word income, from anything and everything. Don't bother about taking the labor. Don't talk about it. Keep quiet.
It's, I think you summed it up so beautifully. The takeaway for me from Venkat's point is very simple. That if you love something from the bottom of your heart, it's flowing from within you. Arvi Mari Kotradu, our Poochi Venkat, or Nesam or Kadan, Arvi Mari, our Pulan Kotradu. Al Kotradu, he doesn't want an income issue to come in and stop the flow. So he's willing to do anything in order to keep the flow going, which is the most amazing quality. And I think again you are drawing a lot from the lessons you're learning from the insect world. You say there is no dignity of labor there, right? There's no differentiation there. So thank you for sharing that. Let's go to Arun. Arun, can you talk about that that lake story that you began to tell us about, and how that changed your perspective and how it led to the creation of your foundation. Can you lead us into that?
So when you look at this country, most of us have traveled across, and we really love this country for what it is. But we've always been taking and we've never been giving back to something which I strongly believe in. And when I moved into Hyderabad, that's the time when the city was getting transformed. And in Miyapur, there's a beautiful lake called the Gurunathan Cheruvu. So this lake was getting polluted slowly, steadily, and in the 4.5 months that we observed the lake, there were visible changes. So a bunch of us wanted to clean it. We didn't know how to start, where to start. Then suddenly one day we decided, like just 8 of us, we got down, we had sacks, and we removed a bunch of bottles and polythene wrappers that were dumped on one corner of the lake. And then as we started doing this, the Hyderabad, the municipal corporation is called GHMC. There were these laborers, the conservancy workers with their tricycle. So they saw us doing this and they just came, they joined us, they parked the tricycle closer so that we could dump everything into it. Then one other guy came, he was the corporator. He said, why don't we pull in more people, and next week I can get the larger garbage truck. Let's all start doing this. So then we decided, what is it that we have to do? We just needed gloves and nose masks, buckets and tools. Conservation, when you plan conservation, as we've been planning conservation of rivers and or even animals in our country, we spend most of the money on conferences in discussing how to conserve, more than on the project. That's what appalls me. 2015 post the floods also, if you see, we've got invited at least 200 plus platforms, which I respect very much. And when you go to those platforms, same presentations with the same set of people, but what has translated into work when you check might not be the amount that's been spoken. So then this struck to us that if a bunch of us are working, there are people willing to do something. Then came this learning that we all wait for that somebody. Why not become that somebody? And we actually became that somebody. There was this one apartment where we went, we spoke. You wouldn't believe this, and he said he doesn't believe in human beings, he believes in insects more. I believe in people who are younger than 15 years, and people older than 15, not so much. I'll tell you why. Now even 12, before they understand what Facebook, WhatsApp and digital mobiles are. So because they're the ones who really respect nature at large. And they're the only ones who are ready to believe in me. So we had 87 volunteers joining us for the first ever lake cleanup, May the 30th of 2007. And what happened was magical. Out of the 87, 60 people were kids. Yes? And they all were there. And you couldn't stand idle. They were like, why are you standing? Pick up more garbage. So like, that's when it also strikes that it's a horizontal plane. There's no one organizer who stands and makes everybody clean. We all have to clean. And with those kids it started and it moved from one school to the other. Today we've cleaned that lake at least 47 times. And you would assume that it's clean. No, it's just that the amount of garbage varies from week to week. Because there are religious reasons why we dump something into the lake. Yes. And there are industrial effluents that we dump into the lake. And there are larger things about, if I asked you about cleaning a lake, most of you would immediately talk about, let's clean the lake, have a bund, joggers track on it, let's have a beautiful eco-tourism model on it. We're not thinking about the insects and all other life forms. We don't think about the floods, we don't think about the drought. Because even when we're in the middle of a drought, which is the worst in 140 years, we still have this. So it doesn't matter. Even if the water at the end of my tap is brown, there's still water. So that's what is being difficult to change. That journey which started with that lake moved to 83 water bodies because of people who wanted to become that somebody. And I'm fortunate we've been meeting and interacting and working with a lot of those somebodies.
Beautiful answer. Thank you so much. I love the answer. I offered him a bottle of water and he refused it and he preferred plain tap water which came to him in a glass. So thank you for opening our eyes. It's quite inspiring. It's something to reflect on. But I have a very important question for you, actually two, so I'll go in the order in which it's coming to me. One is, so you have to clean a lake 47 times. So 83 lakes, and you're counting and you probably will do 100, 200, 1,000, but then you've got to go back and keep cleaning them because that's the way we are as a people. How do you deal with this whole issue of thanklessness? There is a thanklessness associated with your job. with the work that you've taken up at EFI. How do you deal with it? Does it appear as thanklessness?
No, not at all. I'm duly rewarded. Yes. I have a house in Mudichur. My house didn't get flooded. My father-in-law yesterday was telling me how he was in that apartment and their borewell stopped working. But exactly on that day, he was not there. The next day when he went, there was water. So I'm being rewarded in more ways than one. And it's just that I don't probably connect the dots. And when you also look at the larger experience, if you ask me about lakes in Shillong, Cherrapunji, Sora in Meghalaya, I can talk to you about those lakes because I've visited and I've seen what a beautiful, magical land it is. And when I walked into one of those colonies, there were kids aged 12 to 14, and one of those kids walked up to me and said, "Are you from India?" I was stunned because I didn't understand why. But then when you look at their diet, breakfast, lunch, dinner is just rice stew with some chicken. That's all that they have. And the mountains of Meghalaya are being carved slowly but steadily, legally, illegally for limestone so that you and I can have cement. We've constantly been taking from the northeast, not giving back. Why go far as to the northeast? Come to Mudichur or Perumbakam. The Perumbakam lake is one of the magical water bodies, 250 acres. If septic tank ever got filled in your apartment complex, you've got a truck, the truck empties your septic tank, where do you think it goes? It comes to our lake. There's another reason why I asked you requested not to drink from this bottle, because when you look for the address where they make this water, it's either Ponneri, Purnamalli, Perumbakam. And Joe, who studies in BVM not far from here, he noticed how this truck comes and dumps all the human sludge on one corner of the lake, and at the other extreme corner of the lake there are 8 bottling units. So he made this comment. He should be here. He said, what goes around comes back to us. So I dump all my human waste into this and I'm drinking that same water. I'm duly rewarded because I get to see the birds, the animals, I get to meet wonderful human beings, and I get to meet people who are the so-called, I don't want to name, people who are the so-called known faces and their real colors. The true human in every being, I've met a lot of them. They help me be modest, humble, and constantly learn every single day. From ecosystem economics to climate adaptation to entomology to everything under the planet. If we even introduce these subjects, it's not because of the college that I love or the school that I love, it's only because of the field that I'm in and how I get to experience every single day.
Awesome, awesome. The question really was, how do you not get tired? And the last part of your answer kind of summed it up so beautifully. How can you be tired when it's so rewarding? Yes. Right? You can only keep chugging on, right? It gives you more energy. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Venkat, and then we'll go to the questions from the audience, which is, you quit this job at Google and then we went to do your masters in Delhi. It must have been a very important decision in your life. How do you fund your bills? What do you do to pay your bills and keep this whole Bliss machinery going?
So somebody once asked me, we used to travel a lot even as a family back then, yes. So where all have you been? And then this was a 40-year-old uncle who asked me this question as an 8th grade, and I told him, I've been to North India. He asked, where in North India? I said, Hyderabad. And he was like, no, that's still South India. I said, that's still north of Chennai. So then he told me, no, you have to keep going further, Delhi. So I've always had this fascination for Delhi, yes. And I love this country. I don't know why. And every time I say this, I get goosebumps and I tear up. And when you go stand in front of that India Gate and stare into the Raisina Hill, where you can't actually see anything because there's a thick smog, and you still look at that, and this conjunction of Rajpath and the Janpath, and how Edward Lutyens did whatever magically he did. And when I go, whenever I've been to Delhi, the National School of Drama, the JNU, the energy there, and how it's a beautiful confluence of this entire country in one place. And I've always wanted to study there. Yes, and everything happens for a reason. A year before I could join IMC, I'd applied for one of the media colleges here, run by a leading newspaper. And so I almost got through. They said you have to immediately pay 80,000, and I didn't have the money. Crying all the way back to Hyderabad, I went, and my dad called up and said, don't worry, in 10 months something will change. 10 months later, IMC happened. And I don't regret. Delhi gave me dengue fever twice, typhoid once in that a year and a half of staying. But I got to experience the entire Commonwealth Games. And we got to fix Kalmagi's wig. So many things that we got to experience. That's when Reserve Bank of India happened. Delhi police happened. They wanted somebody to do an ad film for them. And all the agencies were quoting more. And my only need was 10,000 rupees. They said, okay. So we did ad films for Delhi police and Reserve Bank of India. They instantly paid, gave me more projects. As I was studying, I established my thing called Christian for Media. Dr. Prannoy Roy has this program 1998 when the elections were on. When Vajpayee, when the former Chief Minister Jayalalitha pulled out of the Vajpayee, I cried. Because how could she unseat a government and how could there be another election? All through the night, there was no breaking news back then. All through the night I sat and I watched how everybody was winning wherever they were winning, losing margin. So I knew psephology as a child. Just that my parents or I didn't realize that that's what I wanted to study. While at Delhi, Professor Yogendra Yadav and others met all of them, got introduced to psephology, came back to Tamil Nadu, and 2014, exactly 3 years ago, the Prime Minister celebrating 3 years in office. I'm celebrating 3 years of predicting our first election, bang on 87% for Tamil Nadu, which nobody else could do. And come 2016, we predicted the election again, and we were 97% correct, and we're the only psephology firm to hold a record of predicting elections 100% correct for Pondicherry, 3 elections back to back. That's how I fund myself.
What I want us to understand, and I think Badri and I often have conversations on this, to follow your bliss, do you really have to give up an income stream? Do you have to give up something to gain something? And that's the decision that's the question that kind of disengages us from the decision to move forward. Many of us are scared because if you follow your bliss, what about who's going to pay the bills? And these two stories today, and that's one of the reasons why we curated these two gentlemen together in one session, tell us how beautifully that balance can be achieved. His heart beats for insects, and he's willing to move chairs if he can earn money. His heart bleeds for India and its conservation, and he's willing to predict election results. And you run another company, right?
Yes, I run another business. The business through which we do market research and psephology is called Christian for Media. The other business which we've started and we've been through a bunch of betrayals and we're still building it together, it's called Yogi and Danta, where we're trying to do digital advertising, designs and more. And people at EFI are getting employed in these two companies, so they have a job so that they can continue.
So, and they can do volunteering with EFI. So, what a creative way of doing this, which is you have the ability to run companies, you have the ability to do work, do it, earn the money, and plow it back into what you love doing. I think that's a great takeaway from both your stories. Thank you so much. We will now go to the audience for your questions. Please keep your questions. If there are comments, observations, legs to be cleaned up, insects to be photographed, please meet them offline. Okay? And over to you, Kaveri, for your first question.
I don't think I need a mic.
Okay.
My question is for Arun. It's wonderful how you cleaned up the lake, but the question that came to my head was, you talked about putting all the plastic in a bag and that they brought another truck. Where was that being taken? Where was that truck taking the garbage? Where? Because that's being dumped somewhere else again, and it's again plastic. The same reason you said, but also for the plastic I refuse the bottle. But I wanted to know, all that you're cleaning from all these lakes is going away.
2007 to now, things have changed. 2007, as rightly pointed out, from all the water bodies, whatever we clean would be taken up to one particular landfill. Yes, no denying that at all. And only thing which we were able to do for them was segregate and give them, and glass material would be immediately taken for recycling. And it's been an evolutionary process, ranging from, for us, first thing was to clean up the lake. Then came the start of just cleaning the lake, which is going to another landfill. What's the whole point? Then the larger thing about flora, fauna, the kind of garbage that's coming in, demographic awareness, sensitization. Now what's happening is the garbage that we clean, the dry polythene alone, which we can segregate and pick up, can be used for road laying, which again has a negative climate impact. If you ask me, I don't have a waste management solution, honestly. Nobody wants to take the waste from the lakes for recycling because it's impossible. There's a huge cost to it. Because the dump at the lakes, at the ponds, at the rivers has a lot of muck in it, has a lot of silt in it. So no machinery would be able to process it. So still, sorry?
Only by hand that we can clean.
Yes, only by hand, and we don't have that many people. And the amount of trash, for example, the Madambakam lake, which we cleaned for over 4 years, we removed a whopping 137 tons over 4 years every weekend of cleanup. And now if you go back there, there's at least 5 tons left. So there's still a tectonic shift that has to happen. And if you're speaking with policymakers about this, which is again a learning, stakeholders, meet with the government, try to meet with, there are wonderful bureaucrats who want to do a lot of things. So you meet the bureaucrat and she comes up with this amazing idea, bio-mining and a lot more. By the time you reach Chennai, she's transferred. So that again a learning. So how do you, I'm talking about the Kanchipuram district collector, wonderful lady, the former collector. Yes, so there's been a lot of learning. Now, finally, we've, one of our volunteers from Hyderabad who's been with us, he's also a co-founder of EFI. He's 24 now, he's in Switzerland at EPFL studying. We are finally there. We are able to speak to some people in Sweden who are successfully managing all their waste. We're trying to bring in a technology which can actually process trash even with muck and silt. So we are getting there, and I hope we get there soon.
And sorry, but just a follow-up to that question. I just wanted to say, isn't it also a hand-in-hand thing then in some way that we need to stop putting the waste in
Definitely.
there?
Can we take this offline?
Yeah.
I'll come to you. Raj, your question.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, what is your view on Swachh Bharat impact and your observation?
Beyond the photo opportunity that it is, I'm very happy that for the first time top leadership is talking about this, yes. And even if it means that a lot of people are just there for the 1 hour, or they're sweeping the same road again and again, it's at least brought people to the streets. And it's given us a platform, yes, that I'll agree. Second, probably that program will evolve, and I sincerely hope that that program will evolve from being the photo opportunity event to an actual participatory event, yes, where all of us participate and take it forward. So I'm very happy that top leadership has initiated it, no denying that. I would love to see it evolve, grow, and become something stronger and more real time.
I'm taking away something very important from young Arun here, which is there is a very fine line between criticize and critique. And in the answer that he gave on the thankless question and the answer that he gave Raj just now, I'm seeing that he always has this tendency to look at the positives and everything, instead of just sitting back and saying nothing happens in our country. You know? Be that change. Very good. Thank you, Arun. It's very important. Jairam, your question is.
I just wanted to compliment you, Mr. AVIS, for interviewing them so beautifully. I think we get as much insight from them as from you as well. So really, I mean that in all sincerity. I have one question for Poochi, and I have 2 questions for Mr. Arun then as well.
Yeah, for reason of time, we'll take one each.
Okay.
But shoot both your questions and then we can move quickly.
I love insects myself, and I identify with them, but there's one insect that gives me the creeps, and that's the cockroach. And I don't know what you feel about that. The question that I want Arun to please answer is, will we ever see the Adyar and the Kuam be cleaned? And I think there was a question that the lady also asked us. I know that we can clean up the rivers, but how do we maintain that cleanliness and ask people not to continually.
So, cockroach question.
I think this is going to be the shortest answer. And like Avis pointed out, I'd love to talk more about it offline. So I would appreciate it if you can continue the conversation after we finish. The cockroach is the most useful insect ever on this planet. That's my answer for now. And please, let's continue after that.
Thank you.
It's the most,
We should think about it, we should research on that. Yes, Arun.
The day when we stop going on a pilgrimage to the point of origin at Gangotri, Yamunotri, and start going to Adanur, Kuvam, and to somewhere in Tirupati base hills, I think our rivers will be cleaner. Yes, because if I stay very close by, and we've done this. We've done a social survey. We stand on top of that Malad Hospital bridge, the Trivika bridge. We ask people going by, do you know the name of the river? They say Kuvam. And I'm like, no, it's Adyar. Ama, it's Adyar la Kuvam. I'm like, no. It's called Arayadu, the river. So there is still very little. There's one magical thing about Chennai. I'm not from here, but I've made this my home. If you or me are airdropped anywhere across the plain of Chennai, 1 kilometer or 800 meters in the minimum, you travel in any direction, you'll hit a water body. A pond, a lake, a Buckingham Canal, a river, or a marsh, or the open ocean. How could we do this to the city is the first question. And we continue to do it is the next question. Gentleman from Tirunelveli, living here for the last 19 years, walks up during our pond cleanup, flings a bag with celebratory trash, religious trash in it, across into the pond. And he looked at me and said, Madras he still continues to he still continues to stay here and not live here. He's from Tirunelveli and not from Chennai yet. That mindset has to change. We are still living as people from Madurai, Kuduthalai, Tiruchi, Bihar, Assam. We're still not connected to this city which has given us everything. The day that happens, we don't have to clean it.
Beautiful. Yes, Jana, your question. And I'll come to Madhu sir after that.
My question to Mr. Poochi Venkat. You described an event where you saw a butterfly eaten up by a mantis and a spider eats an lizard. National Geographic So, but when we often see this kind of situation, we come to terms that this is what life is. This is what life serves you. And we lose our smile, but you are smiling a lot. How we are able to smile in spite of seeing all these kind of negatives that have been poured onto you because of their interest.
Again, the short answer, and I'd love to take it forward. There is no negative at all. This is the cycle of life, and you're being consumed this very moment by your own actions. So I look at the insect as something, I use the word thing again, which is also consumed by its own actions. If it had not laid eggs there, if it had not eaten the leaf, if it had not actually become a cocoon or a pupa at that point, then the praying mantis wouldn't have eaten it. So I look at my life the same way. Like, because I do a lot of conservation also, in which case I completely empathize problems is, if I'm dirtying something, if I'm here, I think, what am I taking away from here? What am I giving back? And the insect seems to be giving all the time. It doesn't seem to be taking anything. So I'm looking at myself the same way. I said, why can't I start giving? And that's what makes me smile. I said, I am giving something all the time.
Good question, very good question. Madhu?
Arun, now you work with school children to clean the lakes. Is it only school children? You don't accept adult volunteers?
We have more than, our invite is to everybody, sir. In fact, we reach out to everybody and anybody. Another evolutionary process where we are specializing on communication about conservation without people getting bored and without it being repetitive, how to make it effective and how to trigger that motivation in people across age group, gender, caste, creed, religion, language, region. No discrimination whatsoever.
I have a question.
You have a question, and then we go to your question. We have very little time. The question has to be brief, the answers are to be brief.
Arun, for you. Today is also the day when Mr. Rajendra Kumar is visiting. Like him, are there, unlike you, are there other people in this country who are working in areas in the US?
Actually, indigenous knowledge is tremendous. Kudimaramathilerundu or Ulavaarapaniyilirundu nariya indigenous knowledge irukku. We've moved away from that is what we've understood. The farming community knows a lot about lake pond restoration. People who make use of water bodies respect it and they actually give back to it. So there is a lot of indigenous knowledge, not individuals, but as a community and society, yes, there are people. There's a lot of work is being done.
Good answer, thank you. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, through your foundation, have you ever worked for people who have got affected because of this environmental as such? Because I've spoken to a number of environmentalists, so they all have started their journey by working with people who have actually got affected by this. Like, next thing we are actually doing a project in Tiruvannamalai for the farmers. So I'm meeting them. So they are all like very badly affected with the drought that has been hit in Tamil Nadu. So because there is no water, all the water bodies are polluted. And so have you ever worked with through your foundation?
Habitat restoration, wildlife conservation is a large focus and we are part of the larger ecosystem. So no denying the fact that we all benefit. Just that we don't realize we benefit. I'll close this answer with this example and that's where you'll understand what I mean. 2015 when Mudittur got flooded, a lot of work had to be done. And after a 16-hour struggle, we were able to pull out a 62-year-old woman from a senior citizen from this building. As she stepped out and when we reached the community center, she rubbed her hand all over the body immediately, handed over a wet 10 rupee, not 2 rupee coin to me and said, "Thank you, come to my house when it's dry, I'll give you whatever." And then inside we enter this community hall, we're giving all the breads and everything, people are sitting, we're moving. This one guy walks up to me, there's no power, there's no water, there's no food. He had WhatsApp and there was a last bit of whatever he could. He came and showed me, Kotivaakatla biryani podrangala, and the bread day kuduthirukkinga, neenga poitu anda enjoy nanu. Two extremes of people. And that's why I don't understand what we have to do for people, because people are the ones, which is you and me, who are polluting. Why do we even need this is an answer question.
Good question, good answer. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please stay with us. We have the last 8 minutes of the program. Do stay till the very end. We are now going to the interesting quiz segment where Arun will ask you a question and you get a mug if you answer the question, and then we'll go to Venkat's question. So Arun, your question please.
The forgotten river, the northern tip of this city, the river that you and I did not know exists, probably do not know exists, please name the river.
Buckingham Car.
Northernmost. Yes. Sorry? Yes, of course the Kosasthalia.
So Ram,
yes.
But it comes from Wales.
Please come forward.
Side, right?
No, Kosasthalia comes from below Tirupati, it flows into Ennomal.
yeah, so can we have the question? The question was, which is the river in the northern part of the city that we didn't know existed until the 2015 floods? That is Kosasthalia.
Very long.
Kosasthalia.
One of the longest rivers.
Kosasthalia.
So that's Arun's question, well answered. And we go to Venkat's question now, please.
Okay. Which is the craziest, weirdest insect on the planet?
Mantis.
Mosquito.
Poochi Venkat. Bumblebee.
That could be the correct answer, but it isn't.
Spider. Cockroach.
Cockroach.
It's the cockroach.
It is the cockroach.
Yeah, for reasons, please contact me offline. Wonderful. Yeah.
So it's the craziest. Can you repeat it again? It's the craziest, weirdest insect on the planet, which he also considers useful in response to Jairam's question. So there you are, Balaji. So your first Bliss Catcher appearance, you made a mug, right?
My wife also.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, thank you. I think our guests have rocked it today. I'll do a wrap as I normally do in another few minutes. But right now, let me invite, I don't think Ashwin is here, but Parandaman, can you come forward? Let's give away the Bliss Catcher trophy, the coveted Bliss Catcher trophy from Odyssey to our two guests. So this is Parandaman, the store manager here, who makes this event happen every month. And we also have Hazel, who are our gifting partner. So Hazel, these beautiful notebooks and journals are available. You have discount vouchers on your chairs, so please do use the discount vouchers. So the guests also get a Hazel journal from Odyssey. Thank you so much. I'm going to do a quick wrap in a minute, but I had one question for you, Venkat. You actually wanted to talk about your book, right? So you have written a book which is going to come out. Can you talk about it and quickly, and then I'll do a wrap. Yeah.
Okay. A book. I can't believe it actually happened. So there's this group that suddenly called me and said, we wanted to do something. I said, what is this? So I'm getting an assignment. Is it insect photography or graphic design, whatever? He said, we want you to author a book. I said, what subject? I said, I'm not an author. He said, insects, of course. Then I said, you really want me to write a book on insects? Is it a writable subject? The reason was because they wanted me to do a photographic book on insects, which was amazing. And then I warned them. I said, I don't know any Latin, I don't know any Greek, and I can't pronounce those weird names of insects. I only know that they are praying mantis. I know it's a green praying mantis and a red tail. They said, no, that's exactly what we want. We want to see those wonderful pictures in the book. Can people get enthused by seeing the pictures? I want to conserve them. I don't want to destroy nature. I want to be part of this process. I said, if my photographs can work, it happens. So it's wonderful that it's finally coming out. I think next month we're planning a release. And I have great pleasure in, AVIS actually showing the cover of the book. This is what it's the cover of the book. And in the audience is Mr. Mati also, who's actually designed the book. And the most interesting was, as part of this, there is one gentleman, I'll take exactly 30 seconds to stop me if that happens. There is this internationally acclaimed artist who saw an exhibition of mine in Dakshin Chitra and said, I can't believe this. And he has been so inspired by that, he started a totally new line of work. And people like him more for his insects, and he's become more popular than me. And that's Mr. Narendra Babu, who's sitting over there. And he's also illustrated for my book. So it's an amazing influence of two different people. Thank you, AVIS, for showing it.
No, what I'm picking up from hearing both their stories is that all of us are created with a purpose. And our purpose finds us. If you look at human existence, human life, it is actually meaningless because you're coming with nothing and you're going with nothing. So what is the meaning of life? There is no meaning. You bring meaning to life. That's what Joseph Campbell said. Osho said there is no meaning to life. Joseph Campbell said you bring meaning to life. But that meaning you bring when your purpose finds you. And your purpose will find you when you're a young kid growing in Modichu. Your purpose will find you when you are dealing in astronomy and pictures relating to astronomy. And then it will come in its own form and give you an opportunity to dive deep into a completely new world down below. And that's the magical thing about purpose. It's transformational. And both these stories remind us that there is an opportunity for us. There is an opportunity for us if we pause and reflect on life, for us to look in the direction of our purpose. The race that Arun talked about is the race that everyone ends up running, which is the earning a living race. If you pause that earning a living race and ask yourself a deep question about life, and look in the other direction, which is of living, your purpose will find you. I'll close with Ruby, my favorite, and I'll tell you that one of the things that he fascinates me with is this 13th century Persian poet Rumi fascinates me with his perspectives on almost everything in life. And on purpose, he has to say this about purpose. And he says, let yourself be silently drawn. Let yourself be silently drawn towards whatever you love doing. Let yourself be silently drawn towards whatever you love doing. It can never lead you astray. So it's so powerful. It can never lead you astray. The two gentlemen here, Arun and Venkat, it led them to the Bliss Catchers event this evening. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. Ladies and gentlemen, next month, on the 24th of June, meet Liz Thornton, who kicked her job, walked out of a marriage that was not working, and set up her cafe in Mahabalipuram. Dive deep into the ocean and learn surfing. She works 10 months of the year. Right now, as we speak, she's vacationing in New Zealand. And will be back in time for our Bliss Catchers. And so she's very clear about what she wants to do with the rest of her life, which is live it to the fullest. And we have two young people who are great artists in their own right. One is a visual artist, the other is a writer, a husband and wife team, Subhadra and Balaji. And they are in that beautiful zone where they're keeping day jobs and they're following their bliss. We'll explore their journeys on the 24th of June, last Saturday of next month at 7 p.m. sharp. Please do join us. If some of you are not on our mailing list and would like to be on it, please meet me and leave your mail ID and I'll be happy to add you to our mailing list. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.